Well, the first thing, I suppose, is it's great to want to reflect. That's a great start.
Okay.
I think there's a certain hunger, and you talk about that in your introduction to your interviews about being hungry. And I think that's something that nobody can actually give you. I think it can be created in you by seeing other people, by being exposed to things. One thing that some people find useful is to do a process recording of. You don't have to do the whole interview, mediation. Sometimes it's way too long anyway. But if there's a critical point, you can maybe write down what happened, and next to that, write down what was going on in your own head at the time. If you get stuck, you can, and that's not necessarily a comfortable place to be to, but that's okay, because mediation isn't a comfortable process for anybody particularly. But to think about what would have had to happen for things to have gone differently. What would I have had to know something different, do something different, read, because we don't know what we don't know. So if you don't read anything, you're not exposing yourself to stuff. So read a book that you wouldn't necessarily read.
Yes.
Go to things that you wouldn't necessarily go to. I went to a great seminar at the university locally that was open to anybody. It was not anything, you didn't have to pay even, and it was about building bridges. He was an engineer, and he made it just so accessible about the things you had to think about when you built a bridge. And of course, building a bridge is used a lot in hostage negotiation, that you build the golden bridge. People, how do you do that? You throw out connection to people. You try and get a wire across the gap so that you can begin to build something. And you do that by using a person, by yourself, by getting alongside them, by seeing things from their perspective. But what I got out of that lecture, which was completely random, was you have to pick your spot in the river where you build your bridge. So all these analogies began to make sense. Now, that isn't mainstream ADR literature or theory or anything, but we can educate ourselves all the time in different ways. And yes, we should be reading, I think, some of the core things, at least to be familiar with them. We don't have to agree with them. A lot of the books are American. That begs all sorts of questions about jurisdiction and culture and stuff. There's also an expense to all this. But I would still recommend that people step outside what's just locally available. CPD that's put on for them, that they pitch up and do, and really get curious about how else they can think about things.
They can watch this interview or other interviews.
Well, your interviews are great. I mean, they're very, very informative, because they're people who are actually doing the work and thinking about what they're doing.
For academics.
For academics.